Hey everyone, it's me, Lauren, your creative mentor, and today we're talking about what happens when you quit your job. We've talked about what happens when you get fired. We've talked about what happens when you're trying to weigh and figure out if you're ready to move on and you're ready to move up in your career. So now, let's say we've decided it's time to go. So, what happens when you quit your job? If you've never quit a job before, or maybe this is your first like company brand situation, or even you're dropping a client, quitting your job, there's like a whole thing to it. You wouldn't think so, but it's a lot to manage. I am also finding, because also if you've been keeping up with everything, I kind of have to abruptly end this podcast. I wanted to keep doing it for a couple more months, but between what is going on in my own life, because I'm starting a new job slash career journey myself, and everything else, and the holidays are coming up, and I just also genuinely have shared everything I can think to share with you. So I don't want to extend this podcast out any further than is helpful. So we're just kind of walking through wrapping up how one opportunity ends for a new one to begin. So I'm going to go over what happens when you decide to leave your job. So hopefully you can leave your job amicably. There's a lot of talk about, quitting jobs these days. But if you're working in corporate America and your job has treated you well and you work for a company, you typically give your 2 weeks notice. Now, the purpose of a 2 weeks notice traditionally is to inform everyone that you're leaving and give the process of the company time to wrap up your work and for you to kind of onboard the person who's going to take your place, or for them to find someone to take your place. So that's kind of where that time frame comes from. Now, depending on a few things, it's not you don't have to do it. It's not like a legal thing you have to do. Like, if you wanted to quit your job and like this day is your last day and you're walking out and it's like too bad, so sad, you could do that. That is super frowned upon, though, in the corporate world, and it's just because you kind of leave everything where exactly it is, which, it is the company's problem, not yours. But typically you want to leave a company and be in good standing with them, because the people you work with may be references. You may want to come back to the company at a later time. You want to be held in good graces with the company that you leave. So that is why you want to give your 2 weeks and make sure that time is baked in. And now, if you have another offer on the table and they want you to start, you can negotiate that time frame of your start date. For me personally, when I start a new job, I like to bake in time off, because I truly feel in this life, there is no better feeling than when you are in between jobs, but you have one lined up. So you can go on vacation and you couldn't worry about work even if you wanted to. It doesn't creep in, and you don't have to panic to figure out where your next paycheck's coming from. So I always try to give myself 2 weeks for my to wrap up my job, and then another 2 weeks for me to just chill real hard. Because also, when you start a new job, you don't always get the same PTO perks, or you're trying to prove to yourself you can do it, and you don't really take as much time off as you may have in an established place. So these are sort of why, the 2 weeks notice is baked into all of this. So let's say you got your offer and you have to tell your boss. There is kind of a weird pecking order you have to follow. You want to tell your manager first and see how your manager wants to distribute that information. So sometimes there's a departmental announcement and you wait for them to do it. Sometimes you tell your manager and then you get your team together and then you tell your team, and then it just kind of trickles down and everybody finds out, and then everything goes from there and whatever. But also, depending on your interpersonal skills with everybody or your relationships with people, you might want to tell people individually. I will warn you, if you do that, and I'm telling you through experience, if you do that, it's a very emotionally taxing thing to do. I've chosen to do that in the past, and I like having the one-on-one conversations with my team and let them ask me questions, and I kind of turn it into a mini mentor session, to be honest. I tell them the negotiation. If they ask me what I make at the company currently, I tell them what my salary was, and because when you're transparent about salary, if you're comfortable doing that, if your colleagues at that point learn what your wage is, they can use that for their leverage if they want to. I just like to give everyone that opportunity, and plus, I've worked with these people for X amount of time, so it's nice to just have a little discussion, but that literally can take you all day. So I would just really weigh that before you do it, but sometimes it is the correct thing to do. And then you can kind of branch out and tell people you might be close with at the company, even if your leaving doesn't affect their day to day. That's all totally fine. So then once everyone knows, what happens next is HR should get involved, and they put an exit interview on your calendar. And what an exit interview is pretty much what it sounds like. An exit interview is when HR kind of comes to you and asks for feedback, because if you're working for a brand company in-house team, to lose a team member to another job or a competitor, companies typically care about that. And some questions that are pretty normal. It's not like a lengthy thing unless you want it to be, but some questions that are really normal is, what could this company do better? What do you like about the company? What do you dislike about the company? Is there anything else you wanted to let us know? And some people really go for it, and they're really negative in it. And this is the one space you have to do that. So if you're coming for people or whatever, HR is the one who's asking for the input. But sometimes your operation managers may ask if it's okay to ask you questions. It's not necessarily a formal HR thing, but they might just want to know for their own reasons. And for me personally, I will tell anyone whatever they want to know. I'll tell them how much I'm leaving for. I'll tell them what, the title I'm leaving for. I'll tell them where I'm going. You don't have to tell them any of that, but you can if you want. So I'm just telling you, those are some normal questions. It should never feel like, how dare you? You should never feel bad about it. You should never be guilted for leaving. Those are not normal things, and they are things I have encountered in the past. But that's super weird when people do that. Sometimes, if you're working in a really small knit company, maybe it's a mom and pop shop, maybe it's whatever, that you can kind of find that in there sometimes. And then sometimes it's really satisfying to leave, especially if, last week we talked about figuring out when you want to move on. If you've been in a situation where you're super bitter about your job, it might feel super good to leave, and you might want to scream from the rooftop, why you're leaving and what's going on and whatever. The best thing you can do, though, is just be respectful of everybody else's feelings too in this. I feel like some people like to brag or boast, or some people like to kind of bring up money, and things like that. But if no one's asking, where are you going? How much did you make? Any of that stuff, I would recommend keeping that to yourself, because we don't want to be destructive when we leave. We want to respect that everybody else is happy here where you're the company you're leaving, and you want to leave them in a positive place. You don't want to make them feel any kind of way about their job, because that's really disrespectful to them just because you're doing something else. And the flip side can be said too. If people are asking you oh, this place sucks, take me with you, and they're not joking, personally, I find that a little disrespectful too, because it takes a lot of work to find something new. And sometimes you're sought after, and sometimes you put a ton of work. I put a ton of work for people to see me. I talk this is all easy. It's not easy to keep your LinkedIn updated. It's not easy to schmooze around and talk to people. It's not easy to think like that. When people get promoted and people get congratulated and people have birthdays and people's life events happen, like, you don't have to say anything. I like to, because I think it's important to connect to people and make a genuine connection. But like, some people, that's just not their jam, and that's totally fine. But I put a ton of work. I hang out in the AIGA. I talk to all of you guys, and I make this like on the side for fun. And like, this isn't a chore, and this isn't a means to an end by any like sense of the word. But like, this is extra stuff that is putting me in front of other people, because that is what I chose to do. And so I feel like when people are like, oh, that was so easy for you, take me with you, ha ha ha. Depending how they say that, it can be a little weird. So you're going to find some awkward conversations in this interaction sometimes too. But it's fine. Everyone means well, and that's all we really need to understand. But I just want you to like brace yourself for like the weirdness of it. So, and also too, like, just as a disclaimer, I am happy to help anyone with anything they ever want. Like, I don't want anyone to feel guilty about that. I'm just saying, if you're going to do it this way, you might find yourself in some weird conversations. So like, just be ready, because getting caught off guard isn't fun. So that's like a piece of the pie. And so, yeah, so just be respectful of like where everybody is, because you don't want to like tell them you make more than them or any of that stuff, because you don't want people to start to feel bad about where they are. That's their journey. You have no business messing with their journey like that. So don't do that to like brag and be stupid and shitty about it. Just be aware of yourself in the way that you're telling people. Even though it's about you, there's like a finesse to this. So that'll happen. You'll have your exit interview. If you have your computer that's like any company machinery that they've given you over time, you're going to have to give it back. In these COVID times, like, going to the office or not is kind of weird. So they'll either have you ship it to them, or you could bring it there. You'll clean out your desk, blah, 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 all that normal stuff. And then you'll get a benefits payout. If you have any PTO accrued and you like haven't used it yet, it'll be given to you in your final paycheck. If you have a flex spending account with your like health benefits, you have to use whatever's in that account before, you leave on your last day. There's 2 healthcare plans, keep in mind, and you'll know these better than me because they're your healthcare plans, if they're offered to you. Some of that money rolls over and it's yours forever, and then some of it, which for me personally, this is what I had, you just have like all this money in like an account and you have to spend it or you lose it. So I've been buying a lot of glasses lately, because that's like a year-long thing, and for me personally, I'm leaving within the 3rd business quarter, so I had a whole other quarter I could have used those that I'm not now. So you should like keep track of all of that. Figure out how much PTO you have left, like accrued, and do the math and make sure that math is in your paycheck and all of those things. Make sure that you're giving all of the company property back. Just do your due diligence. Like, all of those little logistics all matter. And then too, like, you're building a relationship to keep. You've worked with these people for however long. You've learned whatever you've learned from all of these people. Like, truly, if you find a better opportunity from the one that you're leaving, that job gave you that opportunity. These are groups of people, and this is an organization that, for better or worse, taught you what you needed to know to essentially grow up big and strong and go off into your next design endeavor or creative endeavor, or give you the means to take the leap and go freelance full time, or create your own agency, or create your own business. Even if this place has its like downfalls, you gotta kind of be grateful for the position that they put you in, you know? And like, just be gracious about it. Focus on the positives, and you could say whatever you want about the negatives to the people in your own life that don't work here. But, you know, this is a part of your routine you're giving up. These are people you see every day that you're not going to see anymore. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever moved anywhere else, moved schools, moved states, whatever, but there's kind of a mourning period everybody has. And everyone's going to have your well wishes, and, you know, everybody's going to say their 2 cents. And if you're like super celebrated and, you know, people really like you, you know, you may get like a little like going away party. You are not entitled to that. But like, you know, this is a moment where people really show you what they think of you. And for me personally, like, it kind of feels like a birthday in a way, because like everybody's attention is on you. And like, while I do like some attention, I don't like to be the center of attention necessarily, which I know can be a little ironic sometimes. But like, it's like learning how to accept a compliment. It's really difficult. I know you know what I mean. And when you leave your job, again, better or worse, you know, it's kind of just like, just let it wash through you and accept what people say, hear what people say, and believe what people say. You know, you might get emotional. Like, I'm going to tell you straight up, like, my latest situation, like, I cried when I told people, you know, I have a lot of feelings about it, and you know, it's a really bittersweet thing. I wasn't looking to leave necessarily. I'm just following the journey that's placed out in front of me, and I really liked a lot of the people that I worked with, and I do feel a lot of feelings about essentially leaving home to go somewhere else. You know, it's difficult. But at the end of the day, this is about you and what you want and what you need, and goodbyes are sad, but you truly never know when you're going to see someone again. Because if there's one thing that is always true about the creative industry, is even if it is infinitely large, it is also small. You know, all of the photographers know each other, all of the animators know each other, all of the designers know each other. Whether they realize it or not, you will cross-contaminate for the rest of your career. So this is also why when you do like quit a job, like a big kid career job, you've got to know that. You don't really want to burn bridges, even if maybe some people deserve that. You've got to handle your leaving with integrity and positivity, because truly you never know when you're going to need those people or when you're going to see them again. You know, I'm growing into something that's new for me. I know I can do it. I know I'll be great at it. I know I have a lot of things that are positive and helpful that I'm bringing from my past experience now into my future. But there are also things I'm going to have to learn and grow into. And I know I'm not going to be perfect. And I know it's going to be clunky and maybe cringy and embarrassing at times. But the people I have now behind me because of this endeavor are there to support me and have offered already so much help if I have any questions. And that also helps me feel really positive about leaving my situation and going into something unknown and new. I know I can do it, but I also know I'm going to have to learn. I'm not going to be the best at this anymore. I'm not going to be on autopilot anymore. I'm not going to know what anybody's going to tell me for feedback. I have to learn how to work with a whole new set of people in a whole new brand, and I have to learn all of that. I don't know the brand guides. I don't know a lot of things. So I'm going to be a fish out of water for a second. That's very disruptive and intimidating. But just knowing that there are people behind me now and there are relationships I will have forever in my career now are really comforting. Because I know if I'm having a bad day, or I'm just like not getting it fast enough and I'm feeling some kind of way, or if I have some imposter syndrome, this whole team is here. And I believe them when they tell me I can call them if I ever need anything. And, you know, God forbid something doesn't work out, I really feel like I could call them if I need anything. And that's what I mean. Be gracious and positive when you leave your job for a new, maybe better opportunity or a better suited opportunity for the time, because you will find them, or they will know someone who knows you, or they will know someone who's going to manage you, or they're going to know someone or have gone to school with someone or anything. Like, everybody knows someone through some level of degree. This is also why on LinkedIn you see the like first degree connection, second degree connection. It's like the degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's really not a different concept. So this is also why you don't want to burn your bridges. You don't want to like throw the middle finger up when you leave, even if you feel bitter and you're having a negative experience. It's truly not going to be negative all the way around. And even if you feel like it and you're getting feedback, like, just listen to the feedback. You don't have to believe it and you don't have to like enact anything on it. But whenever you're given feedback, just listen to it and think about it and decide if it's true or not. But this is all what I mean. And there's a lot of like stuff happening when you quit a job. You don't just like quit and move on happy go lucky. Like, it's a process. It's an emotional process. It's a logistical process. And, you know, it's a lot to adjust from, especially if you've been doing it for years like me. I've been here for 4 years and now I'm doing something different. And it takes a lot of bravery and courage to do that. So if you're also about to do this, or you've embarked on it, or you're thinking about it, that's a courageous thing to do for you and your career and your goals for yourself. So it's a big deal. And so those are just kind of the processes. And this is also just kind of where my mind is. You know, normally when I record these, I try to keep things vague, or I only share things that have happened really in the past, or pretty like, you know, not as recent as this. You know, this is coming out in the 3rd week of October. So at this point, I've gone through all of that and I've seen all these things, and now I'm just on my like in between job vacation time. And also I feel like that time is really important to bake in for yourself, because you have to like take a breather. Creatives need time to sit and do nothing, and you need to take a breather and not think about things, and let some time pass so that, you know, your past endeavor is behind you and the new one is coming up, and you can just like wash through it and prepare and really start fresh, which is what you're going to need for a new opportunity, you know? And like, don't get me wrong, I've definitely had like inconsequential jobs where I have some pretty killer quitting stories. Maybe I'll share those at a different time. But, you know, epic quitting stories are kind of for when you're young and you're working at like, you know, I don't know where. Someplace that's not a corporation, where you are in an industry. It's your pre-industry jobs. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to quit a job when it's going well, you know? And I really do think there's something to like quitting while you're ahead too, which I feel like is a little bit of the scenario that I am in. But, you know, I could not be more grateful for the opportunity that I had at the brand I was working for. I will always speak very highly of my time there. And, you know, while goodbyes are hard, I know I'm still going to see those people, because I'm also super lucky that my opportunity that kind of fell in my lap is in the same city. So I'm really not going anywhere. Sometimes when you do this, you completely uproot yourself and you go somewhere else. And that's a whole other thing. It's really difficult to start a new opportunity in a town you don't know very well. And maybe the only person with you is your partner or your spouse. And maybe you don't even have that. That is the hardest, I think. I actually haven't gone through that for a job, so I can't imagine like that extra layer of like scary and difficult. And I'm really fortunate that I have a partner to like help me through this, because I was telling them the other day, I was like, I've got this. I'm going to be fine. But the first month, I'm going to like be a wreck. I'm going to be overwhelmed. I'm going to be like dealing with being new at something, and being new at stuff is hard. And, I'm probably going to feel every emotion, and I'm going to be stressed out. And I'm the person where, like, if I'm stressed out, I start to cry. And that's okay. And so I'm like, I'm just going to like freak out for no reason, and it's whatever. So it's fine. But it's just the nature of the beast, and as long as we're going on the path we're trying to explore, and we're learning the things we feel we're ready for and all of that, that's all we can ask for. And again, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given from, one of my leaders, who actually, it's Danielle, who I interviewed for the interview series. It was, walk into a bigger room. If you feel like the room you're in is too small, walk into a bigger room and fill up that room until it's time to walk into the next room. And it's just a really, really simple, great way of explaining, like, you're going to grow and you're going to change, and, stuff in life happens, and different things go on, and just keep walking through doors. And as you grow, doors show up, even if they weren't there a minute ago. So, just go through the process. So I don't know if I'm saying more of this for myself than for you, but we're all here together now. And, I'm just so excited about all of this. And this podcast has been really great. And, maybe I'll go into it more next week and get a little like mushy about it. But I'm really glad I sat here and I watched you all on TikTok, like, ask like, what the hell? Like, how does this work? Because I know as creatives, I don't really talk a lot about the creative process. I talk a lot about like how you function as a creative in a corporate structure that we are all most likely going to find ourselves in. And I've said it before, the creative and the talent is given. But, with saying everything out loud and putting it all on paper, like, I have a notes app in my phone that's like pages long for this podcast. I have all my links, I have all my show notes in it, I have all my bullet points to keep me on task for my 30 minutes here that I talk, just me. Having to write all that down and organize that, one, showed me how much I truly have learned in the last 8 years, and two, like, how much of this stuff just goes unsaid. And, I could read between the lines, but some people can't, and it's really nice to just be direct about stuff. And when I was interviewing for, the position that found me that I'm moving into, they talked about this. They talked about you guys, and they said how impressive it was that I did this so young in my career, which, believe it or not, 8 years of doing something apparently is young. And granted, you work for 40 years, so hell yeah. But and like, I was just really proud when they saw that and they mentioned that, and it really showed me how much I know. And if I didn't reiterate that to myself here and I shared this with you guys to be helpful, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to say yes to this. So it's been very interesting. And also too, like, in my interview, I was like, yeah, people in corporate America just don't really say what they mean. And here are all the things I've learned. And I think green designers could benefit from just having someone tell them exactly what they mean. And then the rest of my interview, everyone just said what they meant in the spirit of saying what we mean. And they just were very straightforward with me. And it was a really productive, like, situation. So I just thought that was interesting. I know that this is about quitting, and I just started talking about other things. But it can be really emotional to quit. And I don't like that it's called quitting, because it doesn't feel good to be a quitter. But, you leave one opportunity for another. You have to walk into a different room, and that's just what happens. And it's going to happen to you. You're going to quit jobs, and you're going to go find better things. And you're going to have to make tough decisions. You don't think quitting jobs is hard, but it is. So I hope all of that's helpful, and that gave you some context of like all the things that go into quitting a job. And if you're a person who's worked with me for the job that I'm leaving, like, my goodness, it has been a whirlwind, and this isn't something I planned a month ago, and I didn't plan to end my podcast a month ago, but a lot's going on, and I know myself well, and this is the right thing for me, and this is what I need to do. And I just so appreciate all of you. And, I seriously hope you all aren't strangers, podcast or people I've worked with. Don't be a stranger. I love this. I love being helpful. I want to help you whether I know you or not. And, if I do know you, keep in mind, I'm helping all these people for free, so I will help you. Reach out. Don't be a stranger. So that being said, you can find the podcast on Patreon. I will be changing Patreon away from a monthly subscription because obviously I'm not going to update anything anymore for the month. But I am going to keep it up as long as I can. I don't know Patreon's rules super well. But I'm going to change everything to like pay per post. So the only posts you're going to pay for are the workbook posts that already exist. But I want to keep the resource up for you to resource, for you to point people to if you feel like it'll help them, all of that stuff. So I'm going to adjust that. So the month of October is the last month you should be billed for anything. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to stay on TikTok. I'm going to keep making tips and tricks and update you on things that I learn. I'm going to keep stitching, relevant discourse about topics we're talking about. And I'm going to keep duetting other accounts that I think are good resources for all you guys based on the questions and be in the comments and everything. Like, just because I'm stopping the podcast doesn't mean I'm stopping being as helpful as possible. And then, of course, find me on LinkedIn and connect. I love when you guys connect with me. Remember to leave me a message. I don't cold connect with people. If I haven't met you in real life, I won't connect with you. But if you're a listener or this has helped you in some way, just write me a message. I'm happy to connect with you and talk there and whatever. So until next week for the last episode for maybe a while, maybe ever. I don't know. I'll talk to you all later.